Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People is a timeless masterpiece that has transformed millions of lives since its publication in 1936. This book is not just about making friends or influencing people, it's a guide to becoming a better human being, enhancing your relationships, and achieving success in both personal and professional spheres. With the rise in technology, we are driven to envision a world where every interaction leaves you feeling valued, understood, and respected. A world where your words have the power to inspire, motivate, and create positive change. This is the world Dale Carnegie invites us to create, one conversation at a time. If you don't have a long attention span, pick a pen and a paper for this one. We will be embarking on a journey through the principles that have stood the test of time, principles that can revolutionize the way you connect with others and navigate the complex web of human relationships. Fundamental techniques in handling people don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Picture this: a young mechanic, trembling with fear, faces the renowned test pilot, Bob Hoover. The mechanic had just made a grave error, filling Hoover's World War II propeller plane with jet fuel, causing a near-catastrophic engine failure. You might expect Hoover to explode with anger, to berate the mechanic for his potentially fatal mistake. But what happened next was extraordinary. Hoover, understanding the profound impact of his response, did something unexpected. He looked at the tearful mechanic and said, "To show you I'm sure that you'll never do this again, I want you to service my F-51 tomorrow." This simple act of forgiveness and trust had a profound effect. It not only prevented the mechanic from being crushed by guilt and criticism, but also ensured that he would be forever vigilant in his work. Hoover's response exemplifies a crucial principle. Criticism rarely yields positive results. When we criticize, we put people on the defensive. They instinctively seek to justify their actions, even if they know they're wrong. It's a natural human response, rooted in our desire to protect our ego and sense of self-worth. By refraining from criticism, we open the door to understanding and improvement. Give honest and sincere appreciation. Consider the story of Charles Schwab, one of the first people to earn $1 million a year in the steel industry. When asked about the secret to his success in dealing with people, Schwab replied, "I consider my ability to arouse enthusiasm among my people the greatest asset I possess, and the way to develop the best that is in a person is by appreciation and encouragement." Schwab understood a fundamental truth about human nature. We all crave appreciation. It's not just about empty flattery. It's about genuine recognition of a person's worth and efforts. This desire for appreciation is so strong that it can drive people to climb mountains, write novels, or build empires. Imagine walking into your workplace and genuinely complimenting your colleague on their recent project. Watch how their eyes light up, how their posture changes. That simple act of appreciation can transform their entire day, boosting their confidence and motivation. It's a small investment that yields enormous returns in terms of goodwill and productivity. Arouse in the other person, an eager want. Henry Ford once said, "If there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own." This principle is about understanding what motivates others and aligning your requests with their desires. Picture a scenario where you're trying to get your child to clean their room. Instead of nagging or threatening punishment, you might say, "I bet you can't organize your toys faster than I can make your bed. Want to race?" Suddenly, the chore becomes a game, tapping into the child's natural competitiveness and desire for fun. This principle applies in all areas of life. In business, successful salespeople don't just talk about their products. They show how those products fulfill the customer's needs and desires. In relationships, understanding and appealing to your partner's interests can strengthen your bond. 6 ways to make people like you. Become genuinely interested in other people. Imagine attending a party where you don't know anyone. You spot someone standing alone, looking uncomfortable. You approach them and, instead of talking about yourself, you ask them questions about their interests, their work, their passions. As they speak, you listen intently, asking follow-up questions that show you're truly engaged. Watch how their face lights up, how they become more animated. This is the power of genuine interest. Theodore Roosevelt was known for his ability to make every person he met feel important. He would stay up late the night before meeting someone, researching their interests and background. This allowed him to engage in meaningful conversations that left a lasting impression on everyone he encountered. Smile. A smile is a powerful tool, capable of breaking down barriers and creating instant connections. William B. Steinhardt, a New York stockbroker, decided to conduct an experiment based on Carnegie's advice. Known for being a notorious grouch, Steinhardt committed to smiling more often. He began each day by smiling at his wife, the doorman, the cashier at the subway, and his colleagues at work. The results were astounding. People began smiling back. The atmosphere at home improved dramatically. At work, he found that complaints were easier to handle, and his increased positivity even led to more business. In just 2 months, Steinhardt found more happiness and success than he had in the past year. Remember that a person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language. Jim Farley, who rose from a humble beginning to become Postmaster General of the United States, had an extraordinary ability to remember names. He made it a point to remember the name of every person he met. This skill played a crucial role in his political success. Imagine walking into your local coffee shop and the barista greets you by name, remembering your usual order. How does that make you feel? Special, recognized, important. That's the power of remembering names. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, understood the therapeutic power of listening. His patients would come to him, talk for hours, and leave feeling better, even though Freud had barely said a word. This principle of attentive listening can be applied in everyday life to great effect. Consider the story of a dinner party where Dale Carnegie met a botanist. Carnegie, fascinated by a subject he knew little about, listened intently as the botanist spoke about exotic plants and experiments. At the end of the evening, the botanist remarked to the host what a wonderful conversationalist Carnegie was, even though Carnegie had barely said a word. Talk in terms of the other person's interests. When Theodore Roosevelt expected a visitor, he would stay up late the night before, reading up on the subject in which he knew his guest was particularly interested. This allowed him to converse intelligently on the topics that mattered most to his guest. Imagine you're at a networking event, and you meet someone new. Instead of launching into a monologue about your own achievements, you ask them about their work and passions. As they speak, you find ways to relate their interests to your own experiences or knowledge. This approach not only makes the conversation more engaging, but also leaves a lasting positive impression. Make the other person feel important, and do it sincerely. William James, the father of American psychology, stated that the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. This principle is at the heart of many of Carnegie's teachings. Consider the story of a manager who turned around a failing department. Instead of criticizing the team's poor performance, he began by praising their potential. He made a point of recognizing every small improvement and expressing confidence in their abilities. Gradually, the team's performance improved, not because of harsh criticism, but because they felt valued and important. How to win people to your way of thinking. The only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Benjamin Franklin once said, "If you argue and rankle and contradict, you may achieve a victory sometimes, but it will be an empty victory because you will never get your opponent's goodwill. This wisdom is at the core of Carnegie's advice on handling disagreements. Imagine you're in a heated discussion with a colleague about a project approach. Your instinct might be to prove your point forcefully, to show why you're right and they're wrong. But pause for a moment. Consider what would happen if you said, "I appreciate your perspective. I might be wrong, and I often am. Let's examine the facts together." This approach disarms your opponent and opens the door to a collaborative solution. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You're wrong." In the 1920s, Dale Carnegie had the opportunity to interview Jim Farley, who was then chairman of the Democratic National Committee. Carnegie asked Farley how he had managed to remember the names of so many people. Farley's response was illuminating. "I don't do anything unusual. I am just naturally interested in people." This principle extends beyond remembering names. It's about showing genuine respect for others' opinions, even when you disagree. When you tell someone they're wrong, you're attacking their self-esteem and pride. Instead, consider saying, "I may be wrong. I frequently am. Let's examine the facts." If you are wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Elbert Hubbard, the renowned writer and publisher, once said, "The greatest mistake you can make in life is to be continually fearing you will make one." This fear often prevents us from admitting our mistakes, even when doing so would be the wisest course of action. Consider the story of a man who was caught speeding by a police officer. Instead of making excuses or arguing, he immediately admitted his fault, expressing genuine remorse. The officer, disarmed by this honesty, let him off with a warning. This principle isn't about manipulation. It's about integrity and the power of taking responsibility for our actions. Begin in a friendly way. A drop of honey, as the saying goes, catches more flies than a gallon of gall. This principle is beautifully illustrated in the story of Daniel Webster, one of America's greatest orators. In his early career, Webster was known for his aggressive, combative style in court. However, he soon realized that this approach was often counterproductive. One day, Webster was arguing a case before the Supreme Court. Instead of launching into a fierce attack, he began with, "It is a small case, Your Honor, but there is a principle involved." This simple, friendly opening set the tone for the entire proceedings and ultimately led to Webster winning the case. Get the other person saying yes, yes, immediately. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher, was known for his method of asking questions that would inevitably lead his opponents to agree with him. This technique, now known as the Socratic Method, is a powerful tool in persuasion. Imagine you're trying to convince a friend to try a new restaurant. Instead of simply stating why you think it's great, you might ask, "Do you enjoy trying new cuisines?" "Yes." "Would you be interested in a place that offers a unique blend of flavors?" "Yes." "If I told you about a restaurant that does just that, would you be open to giving it a try?" "Yes." By the time you actually suggest the restaurant, your friend is already primed to agree. Let the other person do a great deal of the talking. La Rochefoucauld, the French philosopher, said, "If you want enemies, excel your friends, but if you want friends, let your friends excel you." This principle is about giving others the space to express themselves and feel heard. Consider the story of a young salesman who was struggling to close deals. His manager advised him to talk less and listen more during client meetings. The salesman was skeptical but decided to try it. In his next meeting, he focused on asking questions and truly listening to the client's needs and concerns. To his surprise, the client ended up selling himself on the product, and the salesman closed the deal effortlessly. Let the other person feel that the idea is his or hers. No one likes feeling that they're being told what to do or think. People are much more likely to support an idea if they feel it's their own. This principle is exemplified in the story of Clarence Birdseye, the frozen food pioneer. When Birdseye was trying to convince supermarket owners to install his new freezer cabinets, he didn't just tell them it was a good idea. Instead, he asked questions that led them to realize the potential benefits themselves. "How much profit do you make on a can of peas?" he would ask. Then, "How much profit on frozen peas?" By the end of the conversation, the store owners were eager to install the freezers, feeling it was their own brilliant idea. Try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Henry Ford once said, "If there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own." This principle is about empathy and understanding. Imagine you're a manager dealing with an employee who's consistently late. Your first instinct might be to reprimand them. But what if you took a moment to consider their perspective? Perhaps they're dealing with family issues, or maybe the current work schedule doesn't align with their natural productivity peaks. By seeking to understand, you open the door to finding a solution that works for everyone. Be sympathetic with the other person's ideas and desires. The magic phrase, "I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel just as you do," can work wonders in diffusing tense situations and building rapport. Consider the story of a tenant who was behind on rent. The landlord, instead of immediately threatening eviction, listened to the tenant's struggles and expressed genuine sympathy. This approach not only led to a payment plan that worked for both parties, but also fostered a sense of loyalty in the tenant, who went on to become one of the most reliable renters. Appeal to the nobler motives. J. Pierpont. Morgan observed that a person usually has two reasons for doing a thing, one that sounds good and a real one. The wise appeal to the former. This principle is about inspiring people to act based on their highest values and aspirations. Imagine you're trying to motivate a team to work on a challenging project. Instead of focusing solely on the potential financial rewards, you might appeal to their desire to make a difference, to create something innovative, or to be part of something bigger than themselves. By appealing to these nobler motives, you tap into a deeper well of motivation and commitment. Dramatize your ideas. In the world of constant information overload, merely stating facts is often not enough to capture attention and inspire action. The key is to bring your ideas to life through vivid storytelling and dramatic presentation. Consider the story of a factory manager who was trying to reduce workplace accidents. Instead of simply posting safety rules, he dramatized the importance of eye protection. He gathered his workers and demonstrated what happens when a BB pellet hits a raw egg, representing an unprotected eye, versus a piece of safety glass. The vivid demonstration made a lasting impression, and eye protection use increased dramatically. Throw down a challenge. Charles Schwab, the steel magnate, once visited a mill where production was lagging. He asked the day shift how many heats they had made. 6, they replied. Schwab picked up a piece of chalk and wrote a large 6 on the floor. When the night shift came in and asked about the number, they were told it was the number of heats the day shift had made. The next morning, Schwab returned to find a 7 written on the floor. The day shift, not to be outdone, made 10 heats. This simple challenge sparked a competition that dramatically increased productivity. The desire to excel, to prove our worth, is deeply ingrained in human nature. By presenting tasks as challenges rather than orders, we tap into this powerful motivator. Be a leader. How to change people without giving offense or arousing resentment. Begin with praise and honest appreciation. Imagine you're a manager about to give feedback to an employee whose performance has been slipping. Instead of launching straight into criticism, you start by acknowledging their past achievements and the qualities you admire in them. This approach sets a positive tone and makes the person more receptive to constructive feedback. Charles Schwab was walking through one of his steel mills when he saw some workers smoking. Instead of reprimanding them, he asked for a cigar, remarking that he'd appreciate it if they'd smoke outside. The workers, feeling respected rather than criticized, gladly complied. Call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. When Lyman Abbott was a young preacher, he delivered a sermon and later asked the opinion of his father, a well-known clergyman. Instead of pointing out the flaws directly, his father said, "Lyman, a good sermon should have a good beginning and a good ending, and they should be as close together as possible." This indirect approach allowed Abbott to recognize his mistake without feeling defensive or discouraged. It's a principle that can be applied in various situations, from giving feedback at work to addressing issues in personal relationships. Talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. Admitting our own mistakes before criticizing others can be a powerful way to build rapport and make our feedback more palatable. It shows humility and creates a sense of shared experience. Consider the story of a father whose teenage son was struggling with his grades. Instead of immediately scolding the boy, the father shared his own experiences of academic difficulties in his youth. He talked about how he overcame these challenges and the lessons he learned. This approach not only made the son more receptive to advice, but also strengthened their relationship. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. When Owen D. Young was chairman of General Electric, he never gave orders directly. Instead, he would ask questions like, "Do you think this would work?" Or, "Have you considered this approach?" This method made his employees feel valued and involved in the decision-making process. Imagine you're a team leader working on a project. Instead of dictating every step, you might ask, "How do you think we should approach this?" Or, "What ideas do you have for improving this process?" This approach not only generates better ideas, but also increases buy-in and motivation from team members. Let the other person save face. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to say something that humiliates or embarrasses someone. However, this approach rarely leads to positive outcomes. Instead, allowing people to maintain their dignity can lead to much better results. During World War II, General Eisenhower wrote a press release taking full responsibility if the D-Day invasion failed. By being willing to shoulder the blame, he demonstrated leadership and ensured that his troops would not be demoralized in case of failure. Fortunately, the release was never needed, but it exemplifies the principle of letting others save face. Praise the slightest improvement, and praise every improvement. B.F. Skinner, the renowned psychologist, demonstrated through his experiments that animals learn more rapidly under the stimulus of reward than under the threat of punishment. The same principle applies to humans. Consider the story of a struggling student whose teacher began to praise every small improvement in his work. Over time, the student's performance dramatically improved, not because of harsh criticism, but because the praise motivated him to keep trying and improving. Give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. People tend to live up to what is expected of them. By expressing confidence in someone's abilities and character, you can often inspire them to meet those expectations. Imagine you're mentoring a junior colleague. Instead of focusing on their current limitations, you might say, "I've always been impressed by your ability to think creatively. I believe you have the potential to become a leader in innovation in our industry." This vote of confidence can motivate the person to strive harder and live up to the reputation you've given them. Use encouragement. Make the fault seem easy to correct. When dealing with someone's shortcomings, it's often more effective to make the desired improvement seem easily achievable. This approach builds confidence and motivation. Consider a piano teacher working with a struggling student. Instead of criticizing every mistake, the teacher might say, "Your timing is already quite good. Let's focus on relaxing your hands a bit more, and I think you'll see a big improvement." By framing the needed change as a small, achievable step, the teacher encourages the student to keep trying. Make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. The key to getting people to do what you want is to frame it in terms of what they want. This principle is about aligning your requests with the other person's desires and motivations. Imagine you're a parent trying to get your child to eat more vegetables. Instead of simply insisting, you might say, superheroes eat lots of vegetables to stay strong. Do you want to be strong like them? By connecting the desired action, eating vegetables, with something the child values, being like a superhero, you make the suggestion much more appealing. The power of people skills. As we conclude our journey through Dale Carnegie's timeless wisdom, it's clear that these principles are more than just techniques for manipulation. They are a roadmap for becoming a better, more empathetic human being. By applying these principles, we not only improve our relationships and influence, but also contribute to creating a more positive and understanding world. Remember the story of Charles Schwab, who became one of the best-paid executives of his time, not because of his technical knowledge, but because of his ability to deal with people. Schwab's success demonstrates that people skills are often more valuable than technical skills in determining one's success and happiness in life. Today, where technology often seems to be replacing human interaction, these principles are more relevant than ever. They remind us of the irreplaceable value of genuine human connection, empathy, and understanding. As you move forward, challenge yourself to apply these principles in your daily life. Start small, perhaps by remembering and using someone's name, or by truly listening to understand rather than to reply. Watch how these small changes begin to transform your interactions and relationships. Remember, becoming proficient in these skills takes time and practice. There will be missteps along the way, but each interaction is an opportunity to learn and improve. Be patient with yourself and others as you work on developing these abilities. Ultimately, the goal is not just to win friends and influence people, but to become a person who genuinely cares about others, who can build meaningful relationships, and who can make a positive impact on the world around them. As you master these principles, you'll find that success, in whatever form you define it, will naturally follow. In the words of Dale Carnegie himself, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. So go forth, be genuinely interested in others, and watch as your world transforms, one interaction at a time.